Welcome back to the Telosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We have got so much news to cover. What do you guys want to talk about first? We got Roadster news, we got Ford supercharging news, we got Apple Car news. I think those are Are there any other things on your minds?
There's a whole bunch of stuff that I've got on the list, but I did tease
we have
2
R2
episodes.
next
R2
tomorrow?
6 days or
6 days.
5 days by the time
Whenever
this
we get
airs.
this out.
Yeah,
R2.
Rivian just keeps on giving teases and all that with a lot of their shorts
They are
content
teasing.
or Instagram.
They know we
They're
want
teasing
this.
all over the place. But the most recent video that Rivian put out showed the back of it where you can somewhat see some cutouts for some aero features on the back to make it a little bit more slippery for the air to go around it, to where it's almost like a spoiler / wing, but integrated into the body a bit more. So I guess some aero channels, I believe, is what you'd probably call it. Like a spoiler, but more integrated on the top. So you're able to have air go through the top surface of it. But
I'll be
that's
honest,
interesting to me.
every time they tease the R2, I keep going, how is this not an R1S? I keep feeling like this is just an R1S, which makes me worried it's going to affect R1 demand. But R1S is a great car, so if they just make that cheaper, that's still a really great car.
It's how you thread the line for luxury enough, but isn't too luxury to where it eats the lunch of the R1S. So I'm thinking there's going to be features that are stripped from it that the R1S pretty much has and shines on its pretty pedestal, where the R2S, at least what it seems like it's going to be, will be much more financially possible for most people, but still offer a lot of the things that the R2 or the R1S kind of does. I don't know. It's kind of the same situation where how does Tesla make a more affordable car without eating the lunch of the Model 3?
It does look smaller. Like I as we're doing this right now, I went on their Twitter page, Rivian's, and a post from the 24th of February shows the outline of a shadow casted on the R2, and
Correct.
The back looks significantly smaller, so there's your differentiator right there physically. And how do you make this thing without competing with the R1? Yeah, you remove some bells and whistles, and at the same time you make it still incentivize it by making it a better ranged vehicle, one that has NACS built in right from the offset. And yeah, please. And it's just a more streamlined, refined. It needs to.
Do you guys think it's going to have NACS when it's unveiled next week?
Yes.
I don't
think so. I don't think so.
There's a chance the prototype won't, but I highly doubt they will deliver it without NACS, like in 2026.
I agree with that. I think for the time being, they're still most likely trying to figure out the best integration of the NACS port into their systems. And so while one team is working on that, the other team is trying to plug away or charge away, stay on theme, with trying to just get the bare fundamentals of R2 going. In which, in this case, it would be, can it charge? If so, what's the charging curve on this type of plug? And
True.
How
I hope
far
they
can it
talk
go
about
and all
the
that.
high voltage architecture if they do that, or if not, why. That would be interesting. I don't know. I see a lot of differences between the Model S and the 3. Like when the 3 came out, it's much smaller. They get rid of the driver display. It's no longer a hatchback. It feels like a different category. This, I'm like, what? I need to see more differences because all these teasers just keep making me go, that's an R1S, which is great. It's a great car, but you can't. I was actually talking to Rivian Mike about this, and he was pretty concerned. He said, you're going to tick off a lot of R1S owners if you make like almost the exact same car, but say it's going to be like half the price. I think it will be coil suspension instead of air. I think Rivian teased that through some image somewhere. I'll find it. But that should help save on money. I know that Rivian air suspension is insanely... It's cool, but it's intricate and complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Air suspension does sound cool. That sounds really cool, actually. Don't make me want to keep getting an R1.
You'll probably find used ones. Right here it is. I found it. I don't know
plan
where
on
this...
that. Oh, yeah.
It's interesting that you say that, Drew, for the silhouettes of the Model 3 and Model S. Because pretty much they have the same height. And
Yeah.
the length is the only differentiating factor. And then also, I guess, the shape. But it's not really... It appears that it's scrunched down more, but it is in the longitudinal axis. But in terms of width and height,
Yeah. They are both sedans,
it's pretty much the same.
but hatchback's pretty objective feature for a lot of people. That's like a deal maker / breaker.
It is.
So is the
I'm a believer
driver
in that.
display for a lot of people, which I
It's
guess
stupid,
that's what
by the way.
Who needs that? I'm very curious to see how they differentiate it. I think the interior is going to say a lot more than the exterior. That's what I'm gathering from these
I agree.
renders and these images, is like, we're not going to see a big difference from the outside, but maybe the inside will tell a different story.
Yeah.
We're going to have so much art, so much freaking review. Aptera's BinK is going to get unveiled in Paris the day before the R2, so I'm going to be a busy boy. Ugh.
Their battery bank? No. What did you
No.
say?
BinK! Instead of
BinK?
body and white, it's the body and carbon.
Body and carbon. You're correct.
So,
I'm
BinK,
on the
there
brink
it
of
is.
the edge.
Aptera has some funny terminology. They have the BinK, and then in the trunk they have the bunk instead of the frunk.
What you gonna do with all
bunk.
that bunk? All that bunk inside your frunk? I'ma get lady hunk.
Here's something else that surprised me recently that you both probably did not see in the news, and it didn't get reported. But
That's
in
why.
my efforts for looking a few things, Volvo reported it on their own site.
Oh,
They're changing the names of the XC40 Recharge and the C40 Recharge.
oh my God. Did they
will no
make
longer
them
be called that.
easier to remember? What are they called now?
So we know that the EX30 and the EX90 are products that are coming this year.
Oh,
There will
good.
now be, and which is already shipping, but they're renaming it. The XC40 Recharge will now be known as the EX40. And then the C40 Recharge will now be known as the EC40.
What a horrible idea. This is so much worse.
It gets it on brand for what it was. For what the
How
rest
is
of
it
the
on
lineup
brand?
is.
It's just a bunch of letters again.
Well, that's what
I didn't know they were collaborating with Sony.
How is
I'll
it?
save that for later.
So now
Sony's
there's
also
two
done
different
things in the
names,
electric
an old
car.
name and a new name, but both names are just letters and numbers.
EX30, EX40.
All names have
EX
letters in them, Drew.
90. No, yeah, it's EX30, EX40.
I was already
EX90.
confused.
And now we have... I'm telling you, EX30, EX40, EX90, and EC40. That's the only one that's not really on brand.
You
It's
didn't-
the C40.
Yeah.
Or
You listing them there didn't make me feel more confident about the naming simplicity.
So there's the J1772,
Two.
then there's the J3400, and then there's the...
See that I can't take it
That
anymore.
right there.
Why
That
are you
one,
changing
right
the
there.
name of a released product is my question. What's the point?
To keep
Unless you're gonna make it
on brand
easier.
with the rest of your products. Yeah, it is easier. Instead of XC40 Recharge and then having customers confused with, is this the XC40? And you say, yes, but no, it is the XC40, but it's the electric version, which is why it's called the Recharge. Instead, it's now just two different products that have the similar chassis but have different names because they are different vehicles, rather than having the what was it? The Mercedes with the EQS, and you don't know whether the EQS is a sedan or an SUV.
It says
Until-
SUV if it's an SUV. That's
That's
how
more
they-
letters, Drew. They
Yeah, but
decreased
we
the
use
amount of
those-
letters with this. There's less letters. There's fundamentally less letters associated with the
rather
new
them
names
call
with
it
the
like what
Volvos.
I mean. Hold your horses, because I'm about to compliment Lucid, but I would have preferred just like a term there instead of like Lucid Air, Lucid Gravity. Just call it the Volvo, I don't know, Granite, or the Volvo Marble or something. I don't know. Call it some.
I'm
name
on the
we've heard.
site right now, and they should call it what they're trying to call their interior ones: Volvo Mist, Pine, Indigo,
There you go.
Breeze.
Those are colors.
Boom.
Breeze.
Yeah, well, Sapphire's a color, but Lucid did something with that,
Did they?
Oh my God.
didn't they?
I don't know. But at least
I mean,
Volvo
they
and
would.
Polestar
They would have
are
if they're a real
on-
company.
That also leads me to another headline I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on. I recently watched a video from, what's his name? I'll get his name in a second, but he reviewed his Fisker Ocean ownership and pretty much put in perspective of that Fisker is not really in the best situation with their customers. And
Was it MKBHD? Is that who you're
it
talking
was,
about?
he's part of it, and he was also mentioned in the video.
Because he said it was the worst car he ever reviewed.
which is kind of weird because
Here's
he didn't
your
have that
trophy
many,
for that.
He didn't have too many like bad opinions about it, but
Yeah, I thought the title was a little over the
Clickbaity.
top. A little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
Adam
Just like,
Ninja
okay,
is
it's
the person that I want to credit.
it
Adam
was like
Ninja,
half the video was compliments, but yeah.
right? Adam Ninja brought him up in his video and was talking about how some reviewers like the guy from Autofocus. I don't think he ever mentioned MKBHD.
The guy
or
from
Marquez.
That's
He
good.
said Autofocus or the guy from Autofocus, but
Just
That
like
guy
the
from
biggest tech YouTuber ever. What's his
But
name?
Adam
I
Ninja
don't know.
definitely highlighted in his ownership experience that there's a lot of issues where he just can't get it serviced, and there's a lot of software issues with it,
They laid
they-
off like half the company or something.
and they keep on ignoring his emails and all that. And then it found out recently that half the company got laid off pretty much.
It
But
was
Damn.
15%, but I'll round
Which-
up to 50.
which isn't good. But then the nice good news recently, the good news that surfaced recently is that Nissan's interested in their
Really?
Alaska chassis.
Oh,
Nissan
Interesting.
recently voiced their interest, or at least it was reported by two people who are in these talks or are familiar with these talks between
yeah. You need two
Nissan
people to
and
talk.
Fisker.
Yeah.
You can talk by yourself. What are you talking? You do it all the time in your videos, you jerk.
No.
Uh,
I'm talking to my friend. Okay, go ahead. Nissan,
The Mac.
Alaska.
Talking to his brother Frankie.
I don't know who that is, but pretty much it seems like Nissan is very interested in the Fisker Alaska chassis. And
Interesting.
my theory is that they're discontinued, or it's going to be discontinued, I believe, this year, the Titan. I thought that they're going to come out with the Titan EV soon, with the news that they're basically discontinuing the ICE version of their truck. But this somewhat confirms my ideas that they do want to pursue a truck body or maybe go with an SUV. But even so, they like the idea of the Alaska's, I don't know, I guess what technology it's got in it or maybe underneath
What
it.
does it got?
It looks pretty, I guess.
Ah.
It's got a, I can tell you actually, I remember. It's got a midgate that retracts into the,
Ooh.
I think into the bed. So it basically does what the Cybertruck and Rivian, or I guess what the Rivian used to do. But instead of going over the bed like a tonneau cover, it goes up to the roof.
So good.
So it acts as a divider. And then I think
We'll see how
might also
GM feels
tonneau cover.
about that.
Well, it's a rollable, so instead of folding down, it is retracting into the body. So I think
Because I'm on the
It
website
won't.
right now and it's folding down.
it is folding
But-
down. I thought it retracted.
I'll send
Maybe
you
I'm
the
wrong then.
screenshot.
Okay,
But I
might
believe
be
you. I
misremembering
believe there
then.
was a prototype, or that they got to find a way around that because GM loves to sue people, I think. But
We haven't seen it. It's funny that you bring that up. Someone was asking about that when I saw the Cybertruck at the Silicon Valley Auto Show a couple weeks ago, and I had
It's a common question.
Well, I didn't have to, but I mentioned, I'm pretty sure it's a GM patent because no one else has this function except for GM, which tells me that it's pretty much lock and key under GM's fingers for a while. But it does somewhat excite me that Nissan is interested in the technology that Fisker has, because I do believe Fisker has some very unique ideas that are worth exploring. I just don't think that they've got the money or the time to explore them without a huge benefactor, in which I believe Nissan has a decent amount of money that they can contribute to it. So this is going to be a great situation for Fisker, and hopefully it's somewhat beneficial for Nissan for a Titan EV, pretty much.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how great Nissan's software has been, but it seems like that's the most common criticism with the Ocean. And not being able to service it, that's kind of a problem. I've seen a lot of them, by the way. There's a bizarre amount of Oceans in this state.
Agreed.
You only have one Ocean. Quit bragging and rubbing it in.
Hey, we can say that the Bay is somewhat a separated part of the Pacific Ocean. So
it's a body of water, but it's not an ocean.
Hey, it's two bodies of water then. So
Well, you didn't say that. You said oceans.
Why don't they name them after the oceans? That would be kind of a cool lineup.
They would run out after a while. And at this point, they've got four
new
products
oceans.
announced.
They're going to run out of money before they run out of oceans, I think. Seems like
I guess they could do the seas. They could
their
do the
latest
oceans
report
and then the
was they don't have enough cash to survive the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I, too, am very excited.
Yeah, that instills confidence.
They're down. They went up 7% after hours. That's good. It must be Nissan talks.
It seems like EV stock has been on the rise a little bit. So
Man, I haven't
might just be part
even
of it.
looked. I'll be on. Okay, hang on. I got Tesla saved right here. Okay, they are.
The same as they were a year ago.
Boy. A little bit longer, Randy. I'll wait till Bitcoin hits a stupid number and then people somehow associate that with Tesla, and then I'm going to get the heck out of Dodge.
Can we talk about the Roadster?
Okay, yeah, let's do
Why?
it. Because
Why
that
would we
blew
do
my mind.
Why do you want to talk about Fisker?
because that's more in reality than whatever the Roadster is. It's just another empty update.
I mean, they have...
Have ye little faith, Mike?
Can you blame me at this point, Randy?
No, I'm actually probably more on par with you, to be honest. But
It's been 7 years.
Okay. We don't have to talk about the Roadster. We could
no,
talk
well,
about...
no, because it is a thing.
Okay.
No, we should talk about it because it's going to be either, the next godsend. You would think that's how Elon's hyping it up, or it's going to be another compromised Cybertruck.
Foundation series.
You're going to have a lot of ticked off people.
Probably. I think you already have a lot of ticked off people. You've got people with referrals that want a free Roadster, or people that wired $250,000 to Tesla over 6 years ago. And I guess the hype is... Elon's not slowing down on building hype, but what EV company isn't, right? That's all.
Oh, Elon.
Canoe hasn't been hyping
That's
much.
I don't know if the Roadster is going to be the next, best thing since sliced bread. I just want them to just deliver something, so all these multi-millionaires that could just wire $250,000 like that can feel like they weren't completely, utterly, lied to. But I kind of want I want the chapter of the Roadster to just be here and over with, so that way we can just move on from it. It is the Mac Pro 2019 equivalent of something.
Yeah, especially with the Marquez Association and everything.
Exactly. Did that on purpose. Just get it out there. the same way they got Mac Pro out there, and you realize that no, why get a Mac Pro? Mac Studio for significantly cheaper, and even if you maxed out, could be a better value, and that's the Mac Studio would be equivalent to a Model S. Screw it, make it like your most top tier plaid Model S. There you go. This whole 0 to 60 in under 1 second. Who cares, man? Who cares? People are gonna respond to the comment. I care. No, you don't. You're not one of the buyers. Quit lying. You're not one of the. You could care. I care as an observer. Okay, well, I care as an actual owner of putting allocated resources on things that literally matter, not some pet project that just like was half baked. There was one, and you send it up to space, and then there's that. And
I think there was more than one of that version of the Roadster, Randy. But
geez.
Yeah,
even the whole thing's so sad.
I would say some of the funny posts that I've seen around this is, of course, pointing to Sawyer Merritt, where he was highlighting the CEO of Rimac talking about the Tesla Roadster.
He brought up a great point.
Putting in his comments, in which, to their credit, they've actually built their hyper EV car and delivered it to customers. Both of them. And crashed it by Richard Hammond. But they have been able to see and implement and witness the type of engineering and struggles that go into trying to get the fastest 0 to 60 possible, and also tune the handling as much as you can in the hypercar that is the Rimac Nevera. So, but with that, why I say it's hilarious is all the comments below saying he doesn't know anything about rockets. Elon does, or stuff like that are very much like he's just big time jealous. Lol. Just comments like those make me laugh because
you're just jealous.
Yeah, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to recognize an engineering feat. Even myself, as one who doesn't work in the automotive space, can have an opinion, or at least have some sort of constructive criticism and also evaluation of a product that's not within my daily scope of my job. And so for someone to give their assessment of it, having their experience somewhat pretty close to a potential rival in that in that space, I think is valuable. Where with comments such as "you don't have a rocket company" or anything like that isn't really constructive. If anything, it'll just be more interesting to see if Tesla has to focus on the rocket portion of the Roadster that much more just to make it go that much faster than what they've been reporting against themselves, and then also how it competes with others in the market such as the Rimac Nevera. This might just be the EV version of what the big three were, I believe back in 2016, 2013, with the McLaren, the Porsche, and the LaFerrari. So I'm fully welcoming whatever Tesla cooks up with the Roadster. I'm remaining skeptical in terms of timing and when it comes, and whatever technology they're going to have to throw into this thing to try to get as close as possible to whatever their CEO has been saying on social media, in which we've already seen the before and after of the big metal polygon of what it was supposed to be and what it is. And that's why I remain skeptical about this giant pillar that we're putting the Roadster 2.0 on and what it's going to be in reality.
I thought he brought up a great point about how, you can beat a 0 to 60 time with a booster on the back, but now you're hauling around all of this extra weight, all of this extra complexity that doesn't do anything unless you're doing a 0 to 60 test.
Boom.
And they were like, yeah, you could, but I don't think that's what people want. I mean, it sounds cool on paper to say you can do 0 to 60 in 1 second or less than a second or whatever it ends up being, but then every other use case of the Roadster basically, I feel like, becomes worse. Like the handling isn't as good. There's not as much storage or whatever. There's not enough room for batteries or powertrains, or how does that affect the distribution of the weight if you have all this extra stuff on the back and nothing in the front? Because at least with a lot of sports cars, they try to get them as light as possible, and pulled gas thruster doesn't sound very light to me. But I don't know. Maybe they have some magical trick up their sleeve. But I'm still in favor of making a super cheap Roadster. Like,
You want the Miata, Drew.
I want the Tesla Mustang, basically. Like a
Piqued my
two-door,
interest when you said Tesla Mustang, but yeah.
affordable, but still pretty quick and just small and efficient, that kind of thing. I like. But I'll have to
spins
wait.
me off into some other topics, but I wanted to get your opinion as well, Randy, on what you think about Roadster 2.0 and its recent resurgence into the public zeitgeist.
It kind of makes me icky. I mean, we've talked about it in the past about like how they. I don't like when any company like half bacon out something and they'll be quick to take your money. And it was my issues that I had with Cybertruck for the longest time. The Roadster is a measuring contest.
Yeah.
That's
it really
all.
is.
It's just,
it literally is, yeah.
it has no validity in anything, and much like most measuring contests, doesn't really mean much when it comes to rubber hits the road. And I just don't feel like I just want them to deliver the thing, like I said, to be done with it, put that chapter behind it, because we're so beyond that. There's so much more important, valuable things about that's in the pipeline for Model 3 and Y. Even what's going on, just refinements with the S and X as well. Like that's more. That's real people's interests, and the money speaks for it. And any later platformed vehicles, whether it's like a model or what we call the Model 2, right? Anything like that, like stuff that's for the masses is more important, and it's the only thing I'm interested in, because the master plan thing that he talked about, very expensive few, then a little less expensive and a little bit more, then not really expensive, and like we're going down like that. I don't care about going up here to revisit something from Roadster territory. I have no interest in that. It's who can like the Roadster serves its purpose for marketing purposes and free advertising and all things considered. Like that had its time, but when it comes to most people, the 98%, the 99% of the people with money and looking for an EV, we sell more people on the vision of EVs and what they're supposed to mean for the future when you have a more compelling price point, when you have a more accessible network for everybody who's not Tesla. Like the thing about like this one vehicle that's supposed to be like a sports vehicle, it has its place when it comes to like those showcasing events, or you want to try to do something with F1 or whatever. Like, okay, it has its purpose, but like those are for enthusiasts, right? Or collectors. That's not for most people who are just are being told, oh, we have to transition by 2030, and I think the government is trying to control how I'm supposed to, and they got all these skeptical thoughts, and it's our job, not our job, but like, well, it is our job as owners of an EV to like just show how seamless it can be, but then at the same time, it's our in the news portion to help convey, like, give the information to somebody. It's not our job to teach them; it's our job to present the information. Hey, here's what's going on, and then it's the company's job to sell you on the grander vision. The grander vision isn't everybody's in a Roadster, and the grander vision is that everybody's in an EV. And so anything that goes towards that vision, that mission statement, that's what's important. So it's a distraction. It's a distraction. I'm not interested in it, but it's not that I don't even find it like a good looking vehicle. It's a very good looking vehicle, but I just like, it's Elon saying it. Maybe if RJ said something, I'd be like, go on. You know,
RJ announces the Roadster 2 has...
Dude, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just like, oh, what else is he saying? Like, maybe it's the presenter. Let's be real. Maybe it's the presenter. You get more excited if Steve Jobs is announcing something over, I don't know, Steve Ballmer. You know, like that. Maybe it's the presenter of something. And... Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm just too jaded. Maybe I'm too far gone. I feel like that's my problem overall with Tesla. Love the product, don't like the head of state of it. I think I'm too far gone, and I'm trying to rationalize with that because I'm trying to separate the two, and it's hard. I stopped long time ago. I stopped following Sawyer for the sake, like I can't stand all these like overly optimistic and you can't do no wrong type of energy. It's not for me anymore. I'm too old. I'm too jaded, and I'm too butthurt that my wife didn't get the Cybertruck of her dreams on a promise that was delivered, 4 or 5 years ago. And it's like, man, reality. We talked about iOS on the tech podcast this weekend about like expectations and reality, and I feel like I'm trying to come down and be more at a realistic reality. And it has nothing to do with the Roadster. And I mean, we even talked about it a couple of weeks ago about like, man, I'm even on the fence. Like, maybe I'll just cash in my Tesla stock and vote with my dollar somewhere else too, because I just feel like maybe Tesla's served its purpose. I'm more excited about everything outside of Tesla.
Mm-hmm. Rivian stock got very cheap the last couple weeks.
I'm not saying I'm going to invest in another EV. I'm not. I think I lightning struck in a bottle for me once, and I caught it, and that was it. I'm not a gambler. I was practical about what I believed in Tesla back in 2016, and I'm just surveying. I'm doing the Mark Cuban on Shark Tank approach. He's just sitting back, and I'm just letting everyone else talk and do the thing, and then I'll come in with an aggressive offer and like, but you gotta take the deal right now. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Speaking of lightning, Randy, did you catch that that news bomb recently that you can now take your Mach-E, your F-150 Lightning, and your E-Transit to the Supercharger
and take up 2 charging spots? No, I didn't see it.
Not unless it's the E-Transit. That's the only one that fits okay because it's a centered charge port.
Drew, I have an asterisk thing that you and I talked about before. I will hold on to my Tesla stock if I see value in it being in a network services of energy supplying. Maybe.
Yeah, they've got the network now. Everybody's rushing to get on the Supercharger network. Ford is first, to be second, I should say.
First one to plug in with their fleet.
Other than Tesla. So they're first to be second. That's what that means.
Okay.
I like what you did there.
It sounds like Rivian's next this month, I believe.
It sounds like
God, I hope. It looks like it, and I really hope.
They better announce something before R2. That would be perfect timing.
Yeah, or during R2's event, say, and with our integration of the NACS port, or I guess everyone's getting their adapters in a couple weeks, R2 will be ready with the NACS port integrated by the time that it gets produced. I think something along the lines of that will most likely occur next week. But yeah, with Ford getting it at the end of February, Rivian getting in March, and then apparently Volvo and Polestar right up next, according to the Tesla NACS website link. Those are the ones that seem to be next. I was listening to, I totally forget the the podcast, but they recently interviewed the Mercedes-Benz CEO, and he pretty much hinted at June or July for the NACS adapter coming for their products.
We'll be able to charge in every in every charging station around the country as of June, July this year.
It seems like it's all coming a bit sooner than we thought, which I think my wife put it pretty well when I told her about Ford, I think today. She said, what does that mean for the Bay Area? Because the Bay Area, as many, or if you don't know, the Bay Area is pretty much the early adopter of the entire United States for EVs. And so even with the amount of superchargers that we have here in the Bay Area, I don't think it's going to be enough when the tidal wave of the rest of the industry with their adapters comes by the middle/third quarter of this year.
So you're telling them do not come.
How do I mute both of you on this? Hold on. Let me see.
I'm gonna come.
You hit the red button, the end call. No, I think Tesla still outnumbers everyone else. So I feel like Tesla's going to clog up superchargers more than any other brand will, if anything.
Like a person who had Taco Bell and going to the bathroom, they're gonna clog it up.
You're giving me so much work for editing this week.
Why, Randy? Why?
It's going to take a lot of education, I think, because it's been interesting. Tesla's been like telling people how to park with the charge port on the weird side. Like
You're parking it wrong.
They're telling people to park like on the line. It's weird.
So ignore the lines on the ground. Just park in whatever way is most convenient.
Well, they specifically said don't park as you would normally park. Like park on top of the line.
Park on top of the line.
I'll find an icon. They had it in the instructions.
So ignore the stalls parking line delineations and just park whatever way is best for your vehicle. Interesting. So would that mean
they
then,
say how not to park at the same time.
I didn't know how to do this much research just to park my car and charge it up.
Yeah. There's still an advantage to having a Tesla with NACS put on the right part.
Do you think that means for either, are we going to continue to have lines on the ground, or do you think it might just become they section out the area so it's more of a rectangular border and then like hash marks, or hash marks, kind of like with what they do with handicap spots where they say don't park in this area because someone who has a movement disability needs a ramp to go down from their car in the handicap spot into this area. And it might just be the same for EV charging areas where it's a delineate, or I guess a section where it's designated for parking your car, but it's up to you to orient your vehicle in whatever way is most convenient for you to get close to the stall.
I don't think they'll change the lines. I think the end goal is just going to be flood the market with V4s with long enough cables so that it doesn't matter. But yeah, I still think it's going to be a little bit of a mess in the busy cities. Probably won't be that bad on road trips when you're charging in the middle of nowhere, because there's usually more than enough stalls. Depending on where you're road tripping, I guess. Just don't road trip through LA. But the rollout at which they deploy the adapters might kind of taper the speed at which superchargers fill up, because not everybody can get their adapter soon enough. But they do have to pay a 30% premium over what Tesla pays. So if there's any motivation to keep them out of the supercharger, there you go. But I don't think that'll be enough.
That's why Rivian is still sticking with their adventure network, right? Like same thing. Like try to keep some stuff in house. Something
Yeah.
I like. Another reason to stand for Rivian.
It's refreshing to finally see another EV company actually admit, yeah, we should just make our own chargers instead of falling back on someone else. But if you had to fall back on someone, fall back on Tesla. Don't fall back
Well, I
on
believe-
EA.
I've had these also in. I keep a giant list of notes. Volvo and Starbucks are teaming up for EV fast charging. Hyundai's making their own chargers. Best Western is getting Tesla destination chargers. And was it Mercedes and Buc-ee's are teaming up for fast chargers as well. Yeah.
Those are not the match I anticipated.
And then along with the big 4 or 7 different companies.
Oh,
I
yeah.
totally forget.
What is
It's
that?
Honda,
Ionity or
Stellantis.
something?
Yeah, the Ionity network. That's also going to be a thing too. So it seems like that scary horizon that is like purple or like a very scary bluish green cloud of a whole bunch of water coming is turning more into a rainbow of sunshine and happiness with the amount of partnerships that all these companies are making with non-EV companies, but those that do have a whole lot of parking spots nearby their service and or store. So that way people can charge on the road, in which I charged at a lot of Buc-ee's when I was in the middle of the United States, as I would call it. Some would say it's the West, but it is the middle.
Buc-ee's.
So I feel like those, and along with Starbucks, they're all over the place as well. I think we're setting up for a decent support network for charging your EV wherever you go. It doesn't seem as scary to me now.
I was just so impressed by the plug and charge. I didn't expect it to be that simple. I thought it was going to be like the Magic Dock where, okay, you have your adapter and now you plug it in, but then you have to activate it through the app. The fact that they found a way to make the Fords support plug and charge, I was like, great! Make everybody do that, please. Make
There's
it
like
happen.
3 different ways you can charge your Ford.
Yes.
From what I counted from their tutorial video that they put, I guess Ford put on
Correct.
their YouTube channel. You could either do plug and charge, which you have to set it up beforehand, which that's what we basically do with our Teslas already, since we're familiar with that system.
Pretty much.
And then there's the Ford Pass / touchscreen charging app, where either you go into the vehicle or you go into your phone and basically have to choose what stall and all that, and then activate it and then plug in. And or you just use the Tesla app, in which then that's a different way of going about it, where you're looking up in the Tesla app in which you have to put in your credit card information there, which is pretty much like plug and charge. It's just through Tesla's version of it. So yeah, it's not as bad, which is great. The 3 different ways you could do it. It doesn't seem super complicated, but I feel like there's still room to grow into making it a lot more seamless. And not just with superchargers, but with the Ionity network and all the other ones that are going to be popping up.
Yeah. It's plug and charge, I think, is kind of crucial, though, because there's a lot of situations where you don't have internet access, but you need your car to charge. So there needs to be some back-end way to make sure that everything still functions, even if you don't have the right app or you don't have the right account login or something. So I'm glad to see them on day one prioritize that. Yeah, there's lots of other ways to activate it, but I don't know why you would activate it those ways. I guess in case plug and charge failed, but for most people, I think plug and charge is going to be the go-to. You just set it up on your Blue Oval app, whatever it's called, and then you plug in and you're done. Then the next best thing will be when they have NACS integration on the car itself, then you won't even need the adapter. It's like, dang. In my opinion, that's Tesla's greatest advantage. So it's fascinating to finally see that on non-Teslas. You can just road trip around now. I'm kind of like, who's gonna road trip in van life out of their e-transit? Because now they have superchargers to pull from.
You're going to be stopping a lot. I think it's going to be a while until Ford actually puts in a bigger battery pack for the masses to use. I think it'll most likely go the same way that maybe Rivian's taking the EDV, where they'll start out with the larger battery pack, but mainly for commercial uses, and then trickle that down to the user several years later. But of course, right now you can't buy an EDV. You can buy a Transit. I don't know if you could buy the Mercedes E-Sprinter.
I thought you could, but
that one
they should
might
get
be
the
better
adapter
road tripper.
soon.
Right. So the future is bright. Or brighter than it felt like maybe last year. Like it was a glimmer of hope last year. Now it feels more like a spotlight on the horizon.
It feels more real to me. Like the NACS announcements were cool. It was like, oh, okay, now we know it's coming. But it feels a lot more real to actually see people driving around, plugging in, charging. That makes it like, oh, okay, this is really happening. But I'm looking forward to the great year of 2030 where all of our problems go away and just we don't even think about it. This is a long, broken, weird memory. Remember when we had like 2 different plugs? That was weird, wasn't it? Oh, yeah. And then there's new people in the EV space that are like, what? What's CCS? And you'd be like, oh, back in the day, it was so much harder to road trip.
I didn't see that configuration on Volvo's website. What's that?
Acronyms for days. GM
Not
too.
just Volvo though. Yeah, there. GM's part of that.
I want to see how the bolts are going to clog up these chargers. That's going to be more fun because there's lots of them, and they're expensive.
Charge them at a premium. That's how.
They get an
Gotta
extra
go.
premium attached to it instead of like a 30%. It's a 60
That's right.
or 70%.
Hypothetical for both of you. If you showed up to a supercharger and the charger on your car said that there was a vacancy, a free stall, and it turned out that it wasn't free because a F-150 Lightning or Mach-E was, having to charge. But there's like a place further down where they could charge that wouldn't be occupying your stall. Would you confront them or would you just wait?
You know me better than that.
Randy has a sledgehammer in the back of his car just in case. Yep.
Just knocking on the window. This isn't your charger.
You don't belong here.
It does have the CCS adapter, so I think you could physically unclick it. That'd be kind of funny.
You take it's the equivalent of broke pods. You get that trash with your lightning cable and you get out of here. You don't belong here. You kindly but firmly ask him to leave.
Interesting.
No, I'm quite the opposite. It's more context aware for me of, am I on a road trip or is this in the city? If it's in the city, there's likely another supercharger nearby.
That's true. Yeah.
Or even on the road trip, depends on the
You
location.
pacifists. Because I know
Sculpting a
Drew would
decent
be like
human.
you, Mike. You both would just sit and be like, okay, I guess I can wait. I'd be like, hey, you gotta go.
Well, this actually happened to me recently. Going up to Tahoe, we were picking up a few things, and the supercharger was full, and we didn't have to wait long. It was a minute or two. But was that situation where there was no stalls available, and we just had to wait a little bit. But there's no other superchargers that we could go to. But we're not going to just actively knock on every single window asking, are you done charging
different.
yet?
That's like the charger is full versus if a Ford is charging and you could both charge if they moved.
It also depends on the charger as well, Drew. In this circumstance, you're saying that you can't go behind the stalls and plug in there. It has
I'm
to
saying
be
you
on the
both
front
could
side.
charge if they move to a different space.
Yeah, I'd then probably strike up a conversation if it came down to the situation where there's no other supercharger close enough for me to defer
Striking
to.
conversation. You're striking conversations. I'm throwing fists. Like, you gotta go.
Watch out for Randy on the road, everyone.
I want
He's
to
gonna come
see
at
that
you.
conversation. I'd be curious.
My conversation or
Oh,
Randy's?
it'll be like this. All right. People
Randy's
watching on
would be a
YouTube.
bloodbath, but
Yeah. People watching on YouTube, just watch real quick. It'd be like this.
So Randy is knocking, then poking, and
he
now
got in the
he's
car.
He's now
kicking.
destroyed.
Oh, he threw his
shoes are off. He's throwing his chair.
Oh my god. Yep. All right. That's
He said he
believable.
doesn't. He says he doesn't understand what I'm saying. So he says I don't speak Teslan.
Teslan.
No, but Randy's right. I wouldn't say anything. I would be that
You
guy.
would just wait patiently.
I know.
Well, the thing is, if it's a Ford, then there's gonna be a space next to it open, even if I can't plug in.
It's
So
gonna
I
be
would
the
just
same
pull
for any
into
other
that
vehicle
space.
that has a port, not at the spot that is most opportunistic, or at least most optimal.
There'd be a space, you just wouldn't have access to the cable, which means you're first in line when they unplug because you're already there. As soon as they unplug, you just thank you, and then right after you're good. But it would be an awkward interchange, and I'm very excited to see the first busy supercharger with Fords. It's gonna be the T. It's gonna be, such a the Capulets and the Montagues. Everybody's gonna be all huff and tough on each other.
In breaking news today, local Coloradan picked a fist fight with somebody who was driving a Mach E for saying, "Keep my charger out of your port."
So I think, was it Jerry Rig Everything brought up a pretty good point in his video of charging his...
His name's not even Jerry. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, Zach from Jerry Rig Everything. Whatever you want, Randy.
I want his name to be Jerry.
He pointed out that the F-150 has a fake panel on the other side, so they could pretty much do the Taycan move of putting CCS on the left that they already have it on right now, and then putting the NACS port on the right. So that just fixes your problem right there, Drew. You don't have to do some weird segregation of EVs. Just have a port on each side. It would be a little bit more expensive, but to be fair, they could... I might not... They could probably get away with it. And also, it would allow them to take advantage of CCS port locations. So that way they could confidently say you can charge wherever and it's not going to be a problem. You don't need to carry around an adapter.
Yeah, it sounds reasonable. I question how much additional expense having two high voltage wirings to the battery pack would be. I'm sure everything Apple Pro would plug in both at the same time just to see what happens. But another good tip I learned that you should absolutely take seriously is if a F-150 Lightning is occupying a supercharger stall from you, just plug your mobile connector into his bed. Then you can siphon the juice out of his truck.
Can you charge your EV while the other EV is charging?
On the Cybertruck you can, and the F-150 has an even more intricate power plug setup. So I think, you're not going to get it fast. It'll be AC charging, not DC. But we're all going to have to talk to each other. I hate to say it, but there might have to be a little bit of communication that goes on where we say, if your charge port is on the front driver's side, like a Mach-E, Lightning, or a Rivian, you got to hug to the right. And then all the Teslas hug to the left. We're talking EV segregation. This is how it's going to work.
You keep on bringing this up and hyping it up too much, Drew. It's bringing so many questions into my mind of
like
what you're thinking about in there. Segregation of EVs.
Well, it's just if all the charge ports are on the same side, technically Fords can park next to each other. You could have a charger where you have Lightning, Mach-E, Rivian, E-Transit, whatever. You could have them all next to each other. Same thing with Teslas on the opposite end. They could all park directly next to each other. You wouldn't have to leave a space like you would if it's Mach-E, Tesla, Lightning, Tesla. That doesn't work. Now you have to leave a bunch of stalls that look open that aren't actually open.
Mm-hmm.
So hug the right, hug the left. Kia also has to hug the right, but they have to back in because they put the charge port in the worst possible location. But luckily they have a shared platform, so there's lots of EVs that have that charge port location, causing even more confusion. EV9. Here they come.
V9. Here they come.
The big toaster on wheels.
What does the
I also
EV9
wanted to
compare?
add-
Yes.
I realize that it's not just 2 events going on next week with Rivian and the R2, Aptera with the BinK or whatever,
They're
body
pencil.
and carbon.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or lighter. The Dodge Daytona also has an event on March 5th. Or the Dodge Charger Daytona SRT Banshee
Oh God.
has
That
its
thing?
event as well on the 5th.
Does
So we
anyone
get an
actually
event-
want that? Is a good question.
People who want to be loud. This thing has
Wouldn't they
giant
just buy
speakers
a
on it.
gas one though?
This one you can amplify it even more because it's got speakers on it, so you can pump whatever sound you want in there. But I don't know. I think I might be the only one that is excited about the Dodge Daytona, not for I'm going to buy one, but more of what the first step in an EV muscle car market looks like. And what
I don't
precedents
understand how
it's gonna
muscle
set.
car works in the EV space. I'm confused.
Okay.
What does that mean? How is that
Roadster.
different from a fast car? Is the Roadster not a muscle car? I would assume.
Roadster is not a muscle car.
So how do you define
it
the
is.
how do you define the differences if they're both electric?
Sex appeal.
What's a muscle car EV versus
A
Rimac?
2-door measuring contest.
It's a measure of 0 to 60 time for Elon. That's all that matters. If I beat you in 0 to 60, I win. That's it. There's nothing else that comes up.
Congratulations,
Well, at least-
Elon. You won Twitter.
Some of the definitions that I've briefly looked up mention that it's typically a sports coupe with some powerful engine designed for high performance driving. In this case, it would be a coupe 2-door EV that has a lot of power, and it probably focuses more on power than range. It's known to have most likely a Dodge Charger Daytona SRT Banshee with incredible acceleration and handling, but not incredible range. It'll be pretty much the same scale but different quadrant than the Rolls-Royce
Same, but
Spectre.
different.
Okay, so the Roadster is really fast with a performance emphasis and good range, and a muscle car means really fast with bad range.
Well, the Roadster is a halo car. The Roadster is all the crazy, amazing. Well, yeah, it's all. If you know what a halo car is, it's like the ultimate package for that brand.
But what's the what's the Banshee then?
The Banshee's
Also
not
in
meant
Halo.
to.
It's
no,
it's the aircraft you fly in
Stop it.
Halo. Since we're talking about Halo.
It's not meant to be.
See, I
the
can
end-
say things too, Mike.
I've been
So it's
waiting for
cheaper?
you to say things. Yeah, it's much more attainable.
Okay.
So the Model 3 is a Halo car.
No, it's not a halo car.
So
You're right.
so to be, you're saying, I'm looking up. They're expecting for the MSRP to be around 85,000, but to me it just seems like a muscle car versus performance car just means lower price, lower range. Is that what I'm getting?
I guess
Two-door?
a halo car, supercar can also have 2-door. I guess how I would classify it, from my understanding, is the similarities between a muscle car and a halo car are evident. It's just the halo car has a lot more water to fill into those buckets of performance and range and technology, where with the muscle car it has less water to pour into those buckets, so it has to get a little bit more craftier with what it's offering in there. So there might be some sacrifices in terms of technology, so it's not as luxurious on the inside, so it may not have the biggest screen in it, it may not have the most premium materials. but it does have performance, but it's not the pinnacle of performance like the Halo car where it's able to do a 0 to 60 in 1 second. It might be able to do a 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds, which is pretty good. But it's not the most impressive in terms of it compared to every single other car on the market, but it's more comparable to those in that price range and or capability.
But how am I supposed to get laid if it's not the best?
You
my
add
question
on a
is,
whole bunch of accessories.
how does a muscle car? I get muscle car terminology when it comes to gas vehicles because they put all of the emphasis in a crazy engine. It's got a V8 and it roars and it gets really loud. It goes really fast, but it's not as practical. But when you can make a performance Model 3, the ludicrous that's coming out soon, that's cheaper than the muscle car but faster, what's the muscle at that point? The muscle is the noise it makes, or just...
And that's something that they have to define is maybe the aggressive look of it and also whatever it offers, because typically muscle cars are more for... It's the street appeal or street application, where
It's
the
the
Halo
look.
cars are more race track / drag strip application. So there's a delineation between... You can do the 0 to 60 in less than a second with the Roadster, but it can't be on a road. It has to be on a drag strip or a racetrack, where for kind of like track mode and all that, where for the muscle car or the Model 3, like you mentioned, you can do its 0 to 60s on the street anytime you want and all that, but it's a lot more cost effective. And also has some sacrifices in its potential for performance, luxury, and technology, and a bunch of other things. So it's kind of yet to be defined. I mean, you could say pretty much the same for like a BMW M series, and then comparing it to like a Mustang or something like that, or in which they're compared to as well. I think Jason from he was one of the guys that reviewed the Cybertruck before the event. There was him, Top Gear, and MKBHD. Jason put it really well when he was reviewing the new Mustang, the 7th generation. I keep on forgetting what generation they're on, but pretty much like you can compare the two. It's just you don't really think about BMW as a muscle car, but it does have that performance. So you can compare performance, but that muscle-esque feel is some quality that is there or present in the Dodge, Ford,
Mike,
and
can I ask you an
Chevy
honest question?
vehicles.
Did you just BS your way through all of that?
Sort of. I pretty much. It was it's not BS. I would say it was very much leaping to the next lily pad that is slowly sinking and leap to the next lily pad. It's me improvising, but also somewhat landing each step, but not to the most confident level. So yes,
I thought about coming in earlier to save you, but then I was thinking to myself, I was like, let me see how far this is gonna go. And then it's like, oh, he's really he's breaking down definitions and defining those terms. I'm like, I think he's BSing this.
Well, part of it is being able to look up information to back up your claims. And then also, I think what really helped in this, or maybe a peek behind the curtain in my brain there, is logically going from one step to the next and trying to figure out, okay, what does that mean then for this, and how does that answer Drew's original question of what defines a muscle car? And I think we figured something out along the way, Drew, of what delineates Model 3.
It's the inefficiency.
a Roadster.
That's what defines it.
Maybe we didn't get anywhere then, but sure.
It's just noise. Woo!
I think any EV has the potential to be a muscle car. Muscle defining in performance, right? Well, a performance Model Y is a muscle car.
I think it's more than performance, though. It's like the look, the feel. It's like it's just that. It's muscle. It's the difference between like muscle and strength. Like you can have bodybuilders lose to guys that don't look as buff, that kind of thing. It's like a Plaid is going to smoke a muscle car, even though it's got 5 seats and it's a hatchback and costs around the same price. But that's not the point.
Look at me. I am the muscle car now. It's like defining what's a minivan, what's a computer, and
What's an SUV?
We're just
That's even harder.
we don't like labels here.
I think my favorite thing is I looked up on Wikipedia, of course, the definition of a muscle car to get a nice general idea of it. And it says in the definition section for terminology, this section may be unbalanced towards certain viewpoints.
I believe it. The first point is a large V8 engine.
Right. And also before that, it says the definition of a muscle car is subjective and endlessly debated. So the fact that we're touching on it just shows, again, with us, having the inability to fully define and encompass what being a muscle car is.
It's not quite clear. Yeah.
Is in the vein of what everyone else is trying to define it with the internal combustion engine in it already, and then trying to apply that to it's like it's trying to define borders on certain subjects, and it all just bleeds into each other. It's all gray.
Yeah.
It's not black and white.
It is. All right. Fair enough. Well, we'll have lots of EVs to talk about next week, I think, and lots of news to come. So many events all at once. But I'll catch you all next time, and hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye.
I want to see Randy do an apteric. Okay.
Hi. Not proud of the size of your hunk. I mean, your... Hi.
I have to edit
Not
all
proud of
this.
the size of your BinK. There's a pill for that. But in the time... but
Oh
for
my
the
God.
meantime, you should check out Aptera. There you go, Mike. Do something with that. You got it.
This is hilarious.